Power Tracker is a mass marketing mailing tool that allows you to add names to your data and then track those names through a mailing process. It puts all of your name records on one of 6 tracks, and because your names are divided into tracks, you can also use those tracks for other mailing purposes as well. Let's look at the Power Tracker screen. To get here, I went to the gear icon and then clicked on Power Tracker, and that takes me to this screen. Let's first jump down to the bottom of the screen to look at the 6 tracks. They are Unassigned, Introductory, Solicitation, Contributor, Inactive, and Lapsed Contributor. Here's how the Power Tracker process works. You get a list of names who have never donated to your organization. You enter in maybe 100 of those names into Denari. I'm using the number 100 here as an arbitrary example. You can work with however many names you'd like. Now you come to the Power Tracker window and you decide how long you want those names to be on the intro track, and you set that number in months in the first field. Let's enter a 2 here as an example. At the end of that time, our names will move to the solicitation track. Let's decide how long they should remain on that track, and again let's enter a 2 here. Now, run Power Tracker by clicking the Power Tracker button at the top right. And by the way, the page does not update immediately. You have to first allow Denari to run the process, then you'll need to refresh this page to see the results. Denari will use the introduction date on the name record to determine which names belong on these tracks. While they're on the intro track, you may decide to mail them introduction type information. At the end of the first 2 months, we can enter another 100 names, and we'll come here to run Power Tracker again. Anyone who's been on the intro track for 2 months will now jump to the solicitation track, and we can now mail different types of mailings, possibly asking them to make a donation. The idea here is that you now have gotten to know us and are more likely to make a donation. We can also send our initial mailings to the 100 names that are now on the intro track. If someone makes a donation at any time during this process, they move immediately to the contributor track. So in this way, you can keep a continuous flow of prospects through your data. We can also set the number of months that someone can be on the contributor track. Let's make that 24. This just means that once someone is on the contributor track, if they haven't made a donation in the last 24 months, they move to the lapsed contributor track. The inactive track is anyone who has never given a gift, and the unassigned track is for anyone who we have manually put on that track, and we'll look at how you do that in a few minutes. You might use this track for staff members, family members, etc., anyone that you would not want to include in this process. As we've seen, the process of running Power Tracker is not automated, and the reason for that is that you can control the mailing cycle. You can do your intro mailings, run Power Tracker, do your solicitation mailings, run Power Tracker, etc. on your schedule. There are 2 checkboxes here. Make retroactive is used when you change some of your settings and then need to update those settings. So let's say, for example, you change your intro settings from 2 to 3. Then you check this box and run Power Tracker. Denari will go back and get anyone who has already moved to the solicitation track and put them back on the intro track in this example if they fit the criteria. The Moved Unassigned to Intro checkbox is used when you haven't used Power Tracker for a while or ever. When you run that, Denari puts those names on the intro track so that you can begin the mailing process with them. The original purpose for Power Tracker, as it was designed, was a mass marketing tool, as mentioned earlier. But since your names are all on one of 6 tracks, you can also use it for other purposes. For example, if you want to do a mailing to your lapsed contributors, you can do that easily using Name Segmenter. Or you may want to do a mailing to everyone except contributors, and you can do that as easily as well. So let's look at the Name Segmenter briefly to see how we can do that. We'll get to that by clicking on the Reports button on the left. Then Query Tools, and then Name Segmenter. And I'm just going to go ahead and click a segment here at random. Now on the Filters tab, I can go to the Power Tracker section and expand that. And notice how all of the boxes here are checked by default. That's because everyone is on a track by default. Even if you're not using Power Tracker, everybody again is still on one of these 6 tracks. And with Name Segmenter, you start with everyone included. If you wanted all of your names, for example, you could create a name segment and use no filters. Just go to the Output tab and run it to get everyone. So to get a list of just those names that are on the intro track, we need to uncheck all of the boxes except for that track. Now, when we run the segment, we will get just those name records. And we could, if needed, use other filters in the segment to further narrow the list. For example, if we used a classification, that would give us everyone who has that classification and who is on the intro track. If we wanted to do a mailing to everyone except those on the intro track, we could uncheck only that box. When using Power Tracker with Name Segmenter, remember to run Power Tracker first to bring it up to date and put everybody on the correct track. Again, remember, this is not an automated process. You need to run Power Tracker when you want to update all of the names. Finally, let's look at the Power Tracker field in a name record. We'll click on the Names button on the left, Name List Management, and again, I'll just select a name at random. Here we find 3 fields related to Power Tracker. Power Tracker on, the track that this donor is on, and then the date track last updated, or the date track updated, which is the last time that Power Tracker was run. The track tells us what the name record is currently on, and in this case it is the unassigned. The Power Tracker on checkbox lets us add or remove a name record from the process. If the checkbox is checked, this name record will be included in the process when you run Power Tracker, and your track will change as they meet the criteria that you've set up, and by default all of the boxes for all of your names are checked. If you uncheck the box and then hit Save, they will not be included in the process, and the track field now becomes an editable field. So let me show you that. You can now manually put them on any track that you'd like. For example, you might have someone who has never made a dollar donation but may have donated their time. You may want to consider them a contributor in your mailings. You can manually select them here, and then Denari will not override your choice. Remember to hit Save when you're done, and that will lock this name record into that track. This concludes this session on Power Tracker. If you have any questions, please contact our tech support office through the Help button at the top of Denari.